Palestinians are marking 76 years since the Nakba, when they were forcibly displaced from their homeland and the State of Israel was created. More than 750,000 people were evicted from their homes. And now, Palestinians are facing a new catastrophe. Israeli forces are pushing deeper into Gaza's north and south as some of the most intense fighting in weeks rages on. And it's forced more than 450,000 Palestinians to flee from the south of the Strip. The U.S. is set to send Israel a new weapons package worth $1 billion, more than $1 billion, if it's approved by Congress. And this comes after President Joe Biden delayed a shipment of bombs earlier this month over concerns about the rising civilian death toll in Gaza. Well, we can now speak to Gershon Baskin, who's the Middle East director at the NGO, the International Communities Organization. He's also a former hostage negotiator, joining us from West Jerusalem. Thanks for your time. Let me first ask you about this development out of the U.S. I mean, how do you explain the Biden administration intending to move forward with this more than $1 billion weapons package to Israel after Biden saying that he would suspend the delivery of some weapons? This was last week. I mean, is this a U-turn? And if so, why?
It seems like it is a U-turn, and it's probably explainable by the election clock ticking faster for Biden, as he was criticized very strongly from friends of Israel, both in the fundamentalist Christian groups and in the Israel support lobbies in Washington, and a significant amount of criticism from the Republican Party. It probably caused Biden to rethink his decision to withhold the shipments of bombs to Israel, and it is very strange.
Look, I mean, even we heard from the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell earlier this week saying that total victory in Gaza is unlikely for the Israelis. But the Israelis, they just seem to be committed to keep going on. I mean, whether it's an occupation or an invasion, either option is not really turning out to be a good one for Israel. What direction do you think they'll go to next?
I think that we have a government in Israel that's lost in its direction. It has slogans that it's made at the beginning of the war. It has put its war effort goals in front of the goals of returning the hostages. We have a severe situation now with no end game, no political end game, and no way to bring the 132 Israeli hostages home for Gaza. Hamas has set as a red line the end of the war, and Israel has set as a red line any agreement that does not end the war. And we seem to have an unbridgeable gap, with both the Qatari and Egyptian mediators having second thoughts now about their willingness and ability to mediate under the conditions that have been created.
I mean, you're a former negotiator, of course. So when you look at the offensives that the Israelis are pushing it through in Gaza, the more Netanyahu pushes on, is he trying to gain more leverage in any ceasefire negotiations, whenever they may be?
Yeah, there is a belief within the Israeli military and the Israeli government that only military pressure will release the hostages. The reality over the last 7 months has shown us that military pressure is getting the hostages killed. There doesn't seem to be anything that backs up the theory that military pressure will work to bring the hostages home. But it seems to me that the ultimate goal of Netanyahu and his government is to find the Hamas leadership underground in Gaza and to kill them. And that would be their victory picture. After that, they could be more flexible on negotiations. It seems to me that as long as Yahya Sinwar and Mohammed Deif are alive, it's unlikely that Netanyahu is going to signal his willingness to change course.
Let me ask you about today in particular, May 15th, the Nakba, of course, 76 years of displacement for the Palestinians. You've said that the Palestinians are witnessing a more dramatic situation this time than the time of the Nakba. Tell us why you think that is.
Well, I think that they are, in fact, reliving the Nakba of 1948, which they have been reliving every day since 1948. And during the last 7 months, it's been even more dramatic because the weapons are so much more deadly than they were in 1948. The continuous bombing, the relocation of people 3, 4, 5 times within the Gaza Strip with no place to go. Every Palestinian in Gaza, in the occupied territories, in East Jerusalem, in the Palestinian diaspora, watches TV every day and sees the suffering of their people and relives the trauma of the Nakba. I think it's very live for people. If people could have looked forward and thought perhaps there is a way out of this Nakba, it seems to be ongoing with no end in sight.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Gershon Baskin, thank you so much for speaking to us from West Jerusalem.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.